You've got big projects to tackle, but your day gets swallowed up by repetitive tasks and constant inquiries. It's hard to make progress when you're stuck putting out fires. That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. Acting like an extra set of hands, you get your time back for the high-impact projects. Ready to reclaim your time? Visit element451.com/AI team to learn more.
Welcome to another episode of the Hidden Gem podcast. I'm your host, Maya Demishkovich, and today we are diving into an important topic: how social media influences the decision-making process when choosing a college. If you have ever wondered how community colleges can use social media to not only engage their students but also change perceptions, this episode is for you. I am joined by Raven Heller, a former student and social media ambassador at Carroll Community College, who has now transitioned into a professional role as a social media specialist. Together, we'll explore how engaging and authentic content can make a difference in attracting and retaining students. It's an important question to ask. If your college's social media presence was stronger, more engaging, and exciting, could it have changed a student's decision to attend? Raven shares her honest thoughts on this and the role of student-led content and practical tips for breaking stigmas around community colleges. So get ready to learn about the power of social media in community college marketing, and let's jump in. Welcome to The Hidden Gem, your go-to podcast that shines a spotlight on the strategic role of marketing and communications in shaping the future of community colleges. I'm your host, Maya Demishkovich, CMO at Carroll Community College. Every week, I sit down with community college leaders and industry experts to unpack strategies that work. We'll discuss practical insights and success stories to help you elevate your institution's profile and achieve your strategic goals. Tune in to amplify your community college's success, one conversation at a time. The Hidden Gem is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. And let's get started. Welcome back to the Hidden Gem podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Raven Heller, our new guest, and she is not only the youngest guest on my podcast, she's also part of Gen Z, but I had the privilege of knowing Raven in a variety of different roles over the last 3 years. So welcome, Raven.
Hi, it's nice to be back.
So Raven, just to give you some background and why I think this podcast is so important and you will find it insightful is because Raven started her journey as a student at Carroll Community College. She became the very first social media ambassador in our marketing department. And then she helped us create content as a student and continued to contribute even after she transferred to a 4-year university. And then she was bringing us valuable insights about the transfer student experience. And then after she graduated, we were thrilled to welcome her back as a social media specialist to join our marketing team. And what's even more kind of fun or special about Raven is social media runs in her family. I would say her boyfriend, who is now a fiance, has worked with us on social media content creation and community engagement initiatives. And her brother, who's Gen Alpha and is also a dually enrolled student at Carroll, is also a social media ambassador with us. So she brings a variety of different perspectives and experiences, and I'm looking forward to chatting with her about social media in particular and the power it has in community college marketing. So let's dive in. Are you ready?
Mhm.
Okay. Anything I missed? Anything you want to add?
No, you covered just about everything. I'm very excited to be back. Yeah, I've always loved working at Carol's marketing department and just being a part of Carol in general. So I'm very thrilled to be here.
Cool. Okay, so I always say that one of the best and most cost effective investments any college can make is integrating students into their social media content creation process. I want to give a huge shout out to our Associate Director of Digital Marketing and Strategy, Ellie Hunt, who is spearheaded our social media ambassador program, which we launched in 2020, right after COVID. And Raven, you were the first student to join us. And I still have the screenshots from the first 3 months since launching the program and the results we were able to get. I just looked at them before this recording, and our reach increased by 326%. Our engagement increased by 335%, and our followers grew by 7%. And that's during the first few months since you joined us. And we had other students join us as ambassadors. And ever since, it continued to grow. So having those student voices and those stories integrated into content creation is so, so important. So, but I remember when you joined us and we were sitting in the conference room, and I asked you, I said, now that you're a social media ambassador, I would love to know if you looked at our social media before you joined Carol. And what did you say? Do you remember?
I said no. I had not looked at ours, but I do remember looking at other social medias for colleges around me, colleges that I considered to be bigger, McDaniel, Stevenson, UMD, all of those. But I did not look at any community college Instagrams or social media pages whatsoever.
Mhm. Why do you think you did not?
I mean, not to put myself under the bus, but I don't think I considered community colleges to be relevant enough at that point in time to think about it. To me, community college was for people who were not sure what they wanted, and I did know what I wanted for the most part. So I didn't even cross my mind to look back then.
Yeah, it was not the answer I expected when I asked you this. But at that point, it was a very insightful answer. And what I realized is yes, community colleges are open to everyone, but they're not always the right choice for every student, right? Students like you who might want to go and live independently, who might know what exactly they want to do and the major they want to pursue, or maybe athletes who want to play for Division 1 school, they know exactly what they want and where they want to go. So community colleges are not always their first choice. But at the same time, what I realized is once they do the research, and sometimes it's not financially feasible, right, to pursue their first choice. I realized that we need to do a better job integrating community colleges into this process, decision making process, and be more visible, be more engaging, and share content that will make people feel better and more excited about coming to community colleges, even if their first choice didn't work out. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. My plan was to go to McDaniel until day one when I got that deal, and it was
Mhm.
60,000 plus a year. I just about almost passed out when I received my letter. So it wasn't even a question anymore, even though I knew that's where I wanted to go. It was done. There was no way I could possibly afford that and be able to keep going with that cost.
Yeah, would not be feasible, right? So
Mm-mm.
at that point, you decided to go to Carol because you knew Carol existed. You knew of Carol, right? But
Yeah.
how did you feel?
A little bit disappointed.
Mhm.
I was very disappointed that I didn't get to go right into the school I wanted, and I had planned back then on moving out, and trying out, the dorm life. I just knew it was never gonna be possible, and
Mhm.
even then, once I left Carroll and I got my first deal, I had the same shock because four-year universities are so expensive compared to community colleges. At Carroll, I walked out with no debt at all. I didn't pay off every semester without even really needing to work more than a part-time job, but once I transferred out to Stevenson, everything became just more and more and more and more, and they just got more greedy with it over time.
So, Raven, it sounds like from your experience, social media was an important component of the decision making process when evaluating 4-year colleges. And other research confirms that prospective students check colleges' social media to see if it will be a good fit for them. During COVID, Carol also participated in the National Media Press survey by Interact. That is a survey specific to community college audiences. And that showed that after high school visits, counselors and teachers, social media is the recruiting method that has the strongest impact on prospective students. So, in your case, however, and I'm sure there are other students like you, because you were not necessarily thinking about going to community college, you didn't even look at our social media. And to be honest, at that time, it wasn't so great. Our campus was empty during COVID for like a year without any students or any student life. And it was really hard to create meaningful content. And we just got a social media dedicated person and we started developing social media ambassador program. So it wasn't very engaging like it is now. And I do think that community colleges have an opportunity to influence prospective students through social media and insert themselves into their research process if we have a more engaging, more entertaining, more informative social media presence, and our content shows up in their feed, their friends like it. I know Reels are getting very good reach, and there are meaningful ways to engage with prospective students early on and be part of this conversation. And now that we have a more robust presence on social media, we are seeing that at Carol. So now that you've been a social media ambassador and now that you're working at
Mhm.
the college, what do you think colleges, community college specifically, can do better during that research process? And maybe when students get that bill from their school of choice, what can we do?
We just need to provide them with information, and also the primary focus still needs to be breaking the stigma
Mhm.
because so many people, even someone in our marketing department that I talked to recently said that he has nieces and nephews that would never consider going to a community college because to them, that's where dumb people go. So we need to work really hard on breaking that stigma and making sure that people know that you can go to community college at any intelligence level, anywhere that you are in life, because it's there to help you. It's not for dumb kids or people who are stupid and don't know what's going on. It really is a valuable resource, and not just for traditional students, but for students of all ages, adults, older people who are going into personal enrichment. It really does have tools for everybody in every stage of their lives.
Mhm. So, what kind of content do you think is important for us to share? And how do we share it so people actually watch it or resonate with it?
I'm very impartial to having student led content. I think that using students to get content is the best way to be out in the field at the college and understand what current and upcoming students are looking for. From our point of view in the marketing department, we don't see everything that our students are seeing while they're out there in the hallways and what they're hearing from their friends, especially during like the May area when students are graduating. We're not hearing the conversations that our current students are having with the people that they want to come in, their friends. So we need to put out more student content, and it can't just be entertaining content, even though that is still important for connecting with students. And entertainment is important, but also information so that they have all of the information that they need to make an informed decision.
So let's talk a little bit about your role as a social media ambassador. So you enrolled at the college, and I'm curious, what made you apply for the social media ambassador position?
So I already had some previous experience doing social media, especially because of COVID. I had become a streamer. And when I was streaming video games, I wanted to make sure that I was promoting myself, to get people to come in and watch my stream. So I already had like the design experience. And I honestly don't remember how I came across the position to begin with. But as soon as I saw it, I showed it to my mom, and she was like, that is perfect. You have like a very outgoing personality. Kind of influencery since I was used to being a Fortnite influencer back then. So it made it easier for me to just hit the ground running once I joined the marketing department.
Mhm. So that's great that you had some experience. What are some of the challenges maybe you had experienced in this role?
Trying to balance out information and being too education or not educational, but entertaining. was definitely something I struggled with. Our assistant marketing director, she kept saying, yeah, I was doing a great job, but I needed to make it more about 50-50 when then I was doing about 75% entertainment and 25% education. But over time, yeah, I ended up learning how to balance out both entertainment and education into the same style so that people are enjoying what they're seeing, but also learning more about the college. So that took me probably a good year, year and a half into my content creation to really solidify and understand.
Mhm. How did you feel being the face of the college?
It feels really good, actually. I did not know until you just said it that I was the first person. I thought that I was like number 5 or 6. So that's actually I cannot believe that I kind of laid down the foundation a little bit.
Mhm.
That actually makes me feel really, really good because I that is just so crazy to me that I was the first person to do that.
Yeah, I think we had 2 students start, and you were one of them. As you started creating content and people started recognizing you, I remember you told me, right? Like you would go
Yeah.
to events and people would see you and they would want to talk to you. And I think that's an important part of being an ambassador. Very often, people are likely to go to events where you might go because they know someone. And it always feels good when you know a person and you don't feel like alone going somewhere. But as you're creating this content, what type of feedback have you received from your peers about the content?
I received, nothing but positive comments. I've never, ever had any of my peers say anything negative. And I can speak on my brother's behalf. He tells me as a newer content creator that all the time he has people come up and talk to him, more so than I ever had when I was doing it. So in a way, it's like this was my way of connecting to the college. I didn't have any friends in the college other than people that I went to college with and already knowing. And becoming a content creator is what got me to know these people. I still go out and people still recognize me, even now, 3 or 4 years later. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful way of connecting and getting to put yourself out there without having to physically put yourself out there as much. Although, of course, that does come with working at events and things.
Mhm, mhm. Since your brother is Gen Alpha, are you noticing any different trends of how he's consuming content on social media or maybe what he is looking for compared to what you were looking for when you were a student?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I was looking for as a student, I was looking at things that were educational. I wanted to know more about the college and more about what I was getting myself into by attending college. And from his point of view, he seems like he's more interested in the entertainment factor. Loud videos, fast videos, things that catches attention. Of course, that also has to do with some of our other differences. As being a more mature person and a little older, I don't that kind of stuff doesn't matter to me as much. But I think a lot of kids from Gen Alpha are expecting the high quality, fast entertainment, more quantity over quality, whereas I preferred more quality over quantity when looking at college social media.
Mhm. Can you share maybe a memorable or successful campaign or a post you enjoyed creating? Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So my absolute favorite thing I've ever done at the college as a social media ambassador was surprisingly my first Fall Fest parade. For those who don't know, Westminster has like a big Fall Fest parade where we have like a float and we get to go down Main Street, Westminster, and hand out things to kids. And our assistant marketing director asked me back, I think in 2022 or 23, if me as a social media content creator and my fiance as the mascot would be interested in going and just trying out the float. I believe it was the first year that we'd ever done it. And I still have dreams about that legitimately because it was just one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. We had like a big college in the back of the booth, and our mascot was wearing a big sparkly suit and a tie, so he looked all dapper. And I got to stand in the back of the booth, both holding lighting to make sure our mascot to make sure he didn't fall off, while also recording videos of myself behind the scenes inside of the booth. I got to run the smoke machine. I got to smack little noisemakers when we were in front of the judges. But I took some videos of myself from that back area. And every time I see those videos, I just think about how unbelievably fun that was. because many people in social media don't realize how many different things you have to do other than just creating content, but just putting yourself out there and trying new things and just getting involved. It was the most fun thing I think I've ever done with this college, and I even now I think back to how amazing that was.
Which type of content do you think you had received the most feedback on, or maybe got the most engagement? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think. I think I got the most feedback on the ones that were very entertaining rather
Mhm.
than educational, the ones that made people see us more as, like, our college personality
Mhm.
rather than, like, just being a college. Just something that showcases I guess also, like, my personality is different than some of the other social media content creators that have come through, and I think that personability is what makes people interact with stuff more, is getting to, like, truly see who you are and not what the college wants you to be.
Right. And I think that's important, but there's also a balance, right? How do you balance being a representative of the college and being yourself and showing your true personality? I think that's a bit challenging. How do you do that?
It's not easy. I guess I'd have to say probably going, like, if we're thinking about it in advance, it'd be a more like strategy. If we have, like, a defined strategy for our plan and making sure that our students are informed of our strategy and what we're looking for so they don't, like, take the social media in a direction that we weren't intending on it to go.
I think it's also deciding where do you feel comfortable and maybe saying no to something you don't feel comfortable. Like, let's say if there is a trend that we're like, okay, let's do this trend, for example. And you're like, well, I just don't feel comfortable doing it. It's just not my personality. And I think it also goes back to knowing yourself and feeling comfortable with whoever is managing you, who you're working with, to have those conversations to say, hey, this is just not me. Like, I don't want to do it. It's going to look silly. It doesn't fit my personality. But yeah, there's just many different ways you can go. So now, in your current position as an employee at the college, you're also helping train new social media ambassadors. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I actually really enjoy doing that. That's one of my favorite parts about the job. I really like to see the students as they start to understand the process of how things work. I recently had that with one of my students that I've been training. I asked him to go out in this one hallway and record a video. And he asked me if I could come with him and help him mentor him through that. And when we went out there, he tried to record it about 10 times and he just could not get it down. And he said, "Can you do it? And I'll watch you and see how you do it." And I went ahead and did it. And he stood there going, how do you do that perfectly every time? I can't do that." And I said, "It takes years and years of getting to understand the strategy and what you as a marketer are doing to understand, how to make it happen." So it's really, really, really satisfying to get to see these students as they understand and, you see the little light bulb go off and you see them figure out exactly what to do.
Mhm. There's a misconception that I hear a lot that Gen Alpha or Gen Z are so social media savvy. You just give them a camera and send them out there and they can just create content for the college. What do you think about that?
That is not true. I have had more so my brother, which he's fine with me calling this out. He does not actually know how to use social media tools in the way that I'm used to for my generation. For me, I consider social media to be, more informative, but for them, it's more entertaining. And we've been seeing that more with the ambassadors recently as well, as they think of social media just purely as entertainment, which is not the direction that social media always needs to be. I mean, it is the way that it is going, but it's not the way that it always needs to be.
Mhm. So I think it's important to understand the distinction between consuming social media and being able to create for social media. And I think those kids are awesome at consuming.
Yes.
But creation is a completely different skill set. And we didn't talk about strategy, but strategy is the foundation, right? Creating content is not just, hey, go in the hallway, shoot this video and post it. There needs to be a strategy. Why are you doing this? What type of message you're trying to reinforce? How do you catch the attention of that student who's scrolling the feed so fast that your video has to stand out. There's so many nuances to creating good content that a lot of people who don't do it day in and day out don't realize. And they expect it from younger generations, but that's a different skill set, right? Is there anything else you're noticing as you're training those students? Any challenges in particular that come up?
Yes. I have noticed that they seem to struggle a lot with providing some kind of value, which does go back to a lot of the things I've said. But, value is so important when you're doing college content. You want every viewer to take away something from a video. You never want to just post a video to post a video, oh, here's another piece of content done, the Monday's posted. It has to have some kind of something that the viewer is walking away with that they didn't have when they first saw the video, which can go back to education or entertainment, even if the purpose is just awareness, showing people what your college is about, informing, telling them what you have and what you offer. Just some kind of value is the key thing that I think a lot of social media content creators that are coming in new are not understanding.
Mhm. What is your suggestions for colleges to maybe stop doing on social media? I'm sure you research a lot of community colleges and four-year schools. What are you seeing that they do that you suggest they stop?
Long, informative videos,
Mm.
especially ones where someone is just talking at you and it's
Mhm.
not even like a conversation, it's just someone talking at you. I personally cannot stand those. When I went to my 4 year college, I did not like going on social media and getting a 10-minute video of somebody talking about tutoring services. That is just no one, especially in the younger generations, is gonna sit and watch that whole video. There are better ways to compress it and make it fast and getting the point across without meaning to waste the time and resources into putting together this huge informational video that nobody's gonna watch all the way through.
Mhm. That's a good one. Anything else?
I honestly just any post that is solely like just too much information, especially posts from a graphic design standpoint that have so much text on them. I hate going through colleges in Maryland and seeing massive text posts, which I do see a decent amount when I'm scrolling, and that just will never, no one's going to sit and read all that. And, it's too small to read, and it's just so boring that no one is going to stop and read it, and it doesn't capture their attention at all.
Mhm. So you're saying flyers on social media don't work?
Flyers do, it's like the ones with the big text, like a long paragraph explaining something that's coming up, it's too much.
Mhm. No, like, the flyers, like, graphic designers usually create a flyer for, like, let's say, a concert or an event coming up, and then they take the same flyer and post it on social media.
Yes.
And then you scroll, and then to actually read, you have to zoom in to actually see what's being said on the flyer. So don't do that. Don't do flyers.
Yeah, and repetitive content. Now that you've pointed that out, I can think of there's one place, where my fiancé works, and they post the same post every other day. Especially when they're hiring, and it's just, "We are hiring, we are hiring, we are hiring." It's the same thing with no variation every other day, and I have considered muting that account so many times because I'm like, I don't need to see that you're hiring 40 times in 1 month. Just change it up. Even then, if they just did a small, design change, make it a different color, present it in a different way that's not just the flyer with the "We are hiring" on it. Any form of variation to keep it interesting might be more effective than that.
Mhm. It's similar to register for classes. Register now. Registration is open.
Yes.
It's very similar. There's so many different ways, and I think you are really good at it, at finding a way to get this information out there so people know that registration is open, but it's in a more entertaining, engaging way, right? Let's see what else. Now that you've been through different roles over the last 3 years, how has your view of social media and the role it plays at community colleges for recruitment, retention, community building has changed? Or maybe you have a different view, a different perspective than you used to have.
I definitely think it's harder than it was before now that I'm doing it as much. Yeah, I think it's hard to keep coming up with different ways, as we talked about, to present the information, keep it interesting and not just constantly repeat the same content. But overall, I think it's just gonna keep getting more important. I was reviewing the We Are Social tabs, referring to social media. And when in 2023, there was only about 20% of people who were using social media for brand research. And now it's over 40. Over 40% of people, when they are looking into a brand, are going to look at their page and see, what does their social media look like before I give them my money? So it's just going to keep getting important. And I honestly would not be surprised if it was 60 or 70% in 2030. It's just going to keep getting more important, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and, attention spans might be getting lower in the future, but, it's super, super, super important that we just keep making value content for the social media of our college.
Mhm. And I think an important thing is, in addition to making quality content, also connecting with audiences outside of your account, right? It's as important as posting content to engage with students and your community. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Doing this for 3 years, I think that getting involved with the community is extremely important, but is also very challenging, especially referring to comments. And not just negative comments, but positive and negative comments are actually a big struggle for me. When I want to reply back to comments or DMs, it's very hard to not let my personality take over, on both the positive and negative. When we get a positive comment, I feel the urge to reply back as if I'm myself and not the college, which can be really tricky, trying to find the level of professionalism to respond back to a comment in a way that the college would reply and not a student. And same with the negative comments, trying to keep those impulsive responses in check is always been a struggle for me personally, especially if someone insults something that I've spent a lot of time working on. It's very easy for me to kind of want to lash back at them. Bullying is very frustrating on the social media side as well. One time I posted a video back in like 2023, and somebody said my arms were really small, and I still think about that comment sometimes. It really, it could be a bummer to see that kind of stuff. And I had many insults in my head prepared back, but yeah, sometimes you just gotta take a space, not look at the comment for a little bit. Tell your manager, let them handle it, or find a very respectful way to reply back in a manner that is effective and not, immediately responding back to hatred with hatred.
Mhm. Yeah, I think those comments, especially negative comments or bullying, is really hard for students to take in and to separate themselves from the comment, right? Because very often it's not about you, it's about the person who's posting. They might be going through something, they might have skinny arms, and for some reason it triggers something in them. I don't know. But it's really hard for students to understand that and take some practice. And like you said, you're still thinking about this, right? So I think the role of a social media manager or supervisor is to help students understand that and suggest ways to get over it or look at it in a different way. But yeah, that's a very important point.
Well, the ratio is also very low. I'd just like to point that out as well. In my time, the ratio of negative comments to positive comments is about, I honestly want to say like 1 to 100 or 1 to 80. Very rarely do actually, it's probably even more than that for bullying comments. In my time of my 3 years here, I've received about 6 comments that I've seen, although my manager could be very fast at deleting them as well. But I've only seen about 6 in 3 years, and the amount of positive comments that I replied to, or the amount of comments that have made me laugh, are way higher than the negative comments, which is very important to note as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are at 30 minutes, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with us. Is there anything else I didn't ask you that you really want to share?
I just want to reinstate that value is the most important thing with your social media. Now, I know we talked about it before, but it is just so, so, so key to making sure that you are maintaining a good social media page.
Mhm. And I think one thing we didn't talk about is, how do you know that you're making great content? How do you actually measure results? Do you want to share what you look at?
I look at engagement, which, it's kind of a basic answer, but I see the likes. especially with certain types of content on TikTok. My brother's content, for some reason, always does really well. And I think that's because he has so much personality in his videos. The static posts, the ones that are just posts with text, usually don't get more than 10 likes, if even 10 likes. But the videos and the reels with students who are actively doing something and actively out in the community just always seem to do really well. More likes, more views, just all around being seen by more people.
Mhm. So it sounds like students like to see other students, right? They like to see themselves in those activities, events. So the more you can showcase your college's students, the higher potential your engagement is, and the more exciting the culture of your college looks, right? And that's appealing to prospective students. That's a good point. So, Raven, thank you so much. I think this is a very useful and insightful episode, and I hope many of our listeners find it useful. So, thanks again. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable. Let's keep this conversation going on LinkedIn at Maya Dimishkovich. I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, and suggestions for what you would like to see next on this podcast. Remember, by tuning in to The Hidden Gem, you're not just listening to a podcast. You are joining a movement of amplifying community colleges' success. Don't miss out. Subscribe to this podcast and notifications about our future episodes. Share it with your colleagues and college leaders to help make our colleges stand out. Together, let's make an impact. The Hidden Gem is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you will like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher education technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Jenny Fowler, Eddie Francis, Brian Gross, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.